Welcome to Thoughts Roundup. I was riding on an airplane years ago. I was flying somewhere I was speaking at a conference and going to speak at a conference, and I had my notes out and my Bible all out on the little shelf that you pull down there on the back of the seat. And I was studying, so the lady that was sitting next to me said, "What church do you belong to?" I said, "Pentecostal." She, in her Yankee accent, said, "Which means absolutely nothing to me." I kind of smiled. I said, "Well," what she was saying, she didn't know anything about it. That was her way. I said, "It's a little bit wild." She said, "A little wild, huh?" That's what she said about a minute later. I said, "A little wild." We got to be real good friends. She owned several radio stations across the country. I believe she was from Vermont. And finally she said, "Oh, I used to be a member of Dr. Peel's church, Dr. Norman Vincent Peale." I said, "Yes, I'm familiar with him. He's Mr. Power of Positive Thinking." She said, "That's right." She said, "It was such a delight to be in his church." And she said, "I would give anything to be back in his church." Well, I was thinking about a story that a preacher told about Dr. Peale. Everything, his whole message was mostly the power of positive thinking, mental attitude. And he was good. And so this preacher was telling a story about how that they had a man in church that was so grouchy, and it was obvious that he was unhappy. It said his mouth turned down, and it was just no one wanted to sit with him, and they avoided him when they could. Finally, he came into Dr. Peale's office one day, and he said, I have a problem." He said, "No one wants to be with me, and I'm really unhappy. Are people really as happy as they act like they are?" Dr. Peale said, "Well, I think most of them are. I think they are." "Well, I just don't see," he said, "how. I don't know what to do to be happy." And they talked on and on and on for a while, and finally he told Dr. Peale about his business and how that his competitors were, and how that he just couldn't stand them, and how they were crooks and mean. And Dr. Peale said, "I think I have your problem cornered up here." He said, "How is that?" He said, "Well, I'm going to give you a prescription, but you won't do it." He said, "How do you know I won't do it?" He said, "I just know you won't." Well, he said, "Try me." He said, "Well, I want you to, every night when you say your prayers, I want you to say, ask God to bless these competitors." There are about 6 of them. And one by one, ask the Lord to increase their business and their sales more than yours. He said, "I won't do that." He said, "Well, I knew you wouldn't." So later on, the man started, when he was coming to church, he started having a more pleasant countenance. And finally, he seemed happy. And he came to Dr. Peel's office and he said, well, he said, I went home and the first night I prayed that prayer for my competitors, I stopped and opened my eyes and looked up and said, now God, you know I didn't mean a thing of what I just said. But he said, I just kept praying for him until finally I meant it. And he said, you know, I've had dinner with 3 of those men, and they're good men. They seem to be very nice gentlemen, and I'm going to have dinner with 2 more of them. And he said, it has changed my whole life. Well, I got to thinking about that when I read that. We say, Lord, make me what you want me to be. We probably don't mean that. Because it probably, if we wanted to be that, we would have already been it. Make me what I ought to be. Be honest about it. And then what about the prayer that we pray? Lord, I'll go where you want me to go. And I'll say what you want me to say. Help me, Lord. And I imagine there's times we could look up and say, now, Lord, I'm just praying here. I don't mean this. But we need to mean it. And we need to keep praying it until we do mean it. Make me a better, help me, Lord, to work on. Show me what I need to do. And then when he shows us what we need to do, we need to do it to make ourselves better. Yeah. God probably still has to do most of the work, but I'm sure of one thing, we have to get willing. And we have to do part of the work ourselves. God bless you.